Good morning. Good Friday morning. I'm pointing my magic wand at you. Anyway, yes, this is my magic wand. This is my the one that I actually work with and consider my magic wand. The story, the comedy of magical errors uh, that went into the creation or the birth of this wand is one of my favorite chapters in my book, My Life with the Spirits. And if you're watching these shows and you haven't read My Life with the Spirits yet, uh, I encourage you to do so. It'll First of all, after you read it, you may not ever want to watch my morning shows again, or it'll give you a little more texture uh, to your understanding of who it is that's talking to you every morning. But anyway, I just want you to see this because I'm going to talk about your magic wand because everybody has one, whether you whether you know it or not. Whether yes, right now you already have a magic wand. And if you have a stick or a pointy thing that you consider your magic wand, well, just consider that a symbol, a metaphor, an allegory of your true magic wand. Uh, I'm going to uh, read you a little something I wrote a number of years ago. Uh, and I started out with a verse, a lyric, actually the chorus line of a song my partner Charlie D. Harris, or Charlie Parker, uh, the late Charlie Parker, not Charlie Parker, excuse me, Charlie Packard. Uh, I can't get used to his new name because all my life he was Charlie D. Okay. And then when Charlie D and Milo split up, he took on a new and probably his truer persona as Charlie Packard. Okay. And did recordings and moved to Idaho and became the famous Charlie Packard. Uh, anyway, uh, one of our first songs that we wrote was "Touch Me with Your Hazel Wand." Now, Charlie and I used to smoke hash and just pick an occult dictionary off of the shelf and do bibliomancy. And one of them uh, was hazel wand, and we'd write a song about whatever our finger landed on. And the chorus of this one song was "Touch me with your hazel wand, fill my soul with light, bring me from darkness into light." Okay. Now, even though we got stoned, even though we flippantly did bibliomancy, Charlie and I were as serious spiritual seekers uh, as two country boys from the Midwest uh, could get. Okay, we were serious. I was studying Eastern mysticism, and uh, Crowley was Dennis was uh, or Charlie. His name was Dennis. Boy, I'm confusing you with. I just picked a name and stuck with it. Okay, uh, was a sort of a wonderful Christian mystic. Uh, but anyway, we when we started writing the song, we channeled the best of us, the best that was in us, um, that we could muster at the time. And this is about the magic wand. The magician, who's also a Kabbalist, will probably be happy to babble on to you about how the magic wand, represents the sacred element fire, how it's the magical weapon that represents Atzilith, the archetypal world, the highest of the four Kabbalistic worlds, how it is the letter Yod in the great name Yod-He Vav-He that represents the fundamental and purest essence of the human soul, the life force itself. It is the spinal cord in the physical body and the column of the chakras in the psychic body. The wand is the Appian way of consciousness that runs from Godhead to your head. A wand is all things active, all things positive, all things protrusive and penetrating. The wand is the instrument of fatherhood, the phallus of creation, and the photons of light. The wand is the hollow fennel stalk with which Prometheus brought the gift of fire stolen from the gods to humankind. The wand is firm, it is straight, it is singular, it is the undeviating will of God, and ultimately the will of God must be the will of the magician. The wand is nothing less than the pure, one-pointed purpose for which you have incarnated. And it's also the tool by which you must dispatch that sacred duty. If you don't think you have a sacred duty in life, you're profoundly mistaken. No matter what your life circumstances are, there is a job that must be done, a need that must be fulfilled, a role that must be played in the grand comedy drama of existence that can only be done, filled, acted out by you, and you alone. You can be certain of this because you wouldn't even be sitting here sucking and blowing air in and out of your lungs if there was something vitally important still left undone in the universe, something that only you can do. So, why have you incarnated? What's your reason for existing? What is your wand? Are you using it to execute your sacred duty? You probably don't have a good answer. Don't worry, finding out that answer is called the great work. But because you're a magician, you actually are obligated to do that great work. You can't let a little temporary amnesia stop you from getting on with your magic work. You have to start somewhere. So until you get a handle on what your true will is, go ahead and just start pretending. Wrap your fingers around the nearest stick, and for the time being, use it as your homemade wand. Any pointy thing will work. A twig, a walking stick, a golf club, a pencil, a pen. Ooh, pen is a mighty wand that's changed much of the world. I cut my first wand from an almond tree in the backyard of my initiators, Phyllis and Grady McMurtry. They were still living at the time, so it was their home in Dublin, California. It's just not too far from here. A year later, I would, with the help of a dear brother, cut a hazel wand or years later, I would cut a hazel wand from the property at Boleskine House near Loch Ness, Scotland. Many of the traditions of ceremonial magic, especially those based on the mythology of the Hebrew Kabbalah, are drawn from the Bible. Like it or not. And there's probably no Bible story more magical or dramatic than that of Moses and his miracle-working staff. We first see the famous staff in action when Moses, in an attempt to impress the Pharaoh and his team of crack magicians, tossed his rod on the ground, and lo and behold, it miraculously turns into a slithery snake. Not to be outdone, the Pharaoh's magicians whip out their wands and throw them down, and their rods turn into snakes. But then, even as the Pharaoh's magicians are high-fiving each other, Moses' snake chases down the Egyptian snakes and one by one swallows them up. After that, Moses' snake lets out a big biblical burp, straightens itself out, and stiffens into a walking stick with a really cool handle. The Pharaoh is fascinated by this bit of Freudian one-upsmanship, but not impressed enough to let the Hebrews go. Moses would have to wag his wand a few more times to finally prove to the Pharaoh whose magic was bigger. With it, Moses would turn the Nile into blood and bring other deadly plagues down upon Egypt. Most memorably, the wand would save the fleeing children of Israel from the pursuing Egyptian army when Moses created an escape route through the Red Sea by waving his magic wand over the water while shouting in his most dramatic Charlton Heston voice, "Behold his mighty hand." Hand in Hebrew is yod, and yod is the weapon of the wand. Okay, behold his mighty hand, yod, wand. But I digress. Moses' hand of God was quite a baton. And according to both magical and biblical traditions, his wand was made of almond wood. Modern Kabbalistic magicians are quick to point out that the words rod of almond in Hebrew, and I spell it out, enumerate to 463. The three Hebrew letters that also enumerate to 463 are Tav, Samak, Gimel, which are associated with the three paths that form the middle pillar on the tree of life. The middle pillar connects the gross matter of Sephirah numbers 10 to the supreme consciousness of Sephirah number 1, Kether, the crown of absolute Godhead. The pontifical staffs of Roman Catholic popes have traditionally been almond rods. As a young magician, I naturally wanted an almond wand of my very own, and I described that in painful detail in My Life with the Spirits. I'm not going to go into it right now. Well, it's only a couple sentences here. I'll simply say that by cutting the perfect wand from a blossoming branch of an almond tree in the Eden-esque garden of my magic teacher Phyllis Seckler McMurtry in Dublin, California, and after straightening it for months on a homemade straightening device, and after creating and executing a 2-week consecration ritual that involved invoking, as best as I knew how at the time, the spirits of fire into the wand, a ceremony that culminated on the last night with the most dramatic neighborhood calamity requiring the emergency services of the Costa Mesa Fire Department. I then, on my very first morning that I was to use it in ritual, I accidentally sat and unceremoniously sat on my precious consecrated wand, snapping it neatly in two. Please, if you haven't read the full story, it is in My Life with the Spirits. Luckily, I had another practice wand that I had surreptitiously cut in a midnight raid on a backyard in Huntington Beach months earlier. This time, however, instead of repeating the entire exhausting 2 week consecration ceremony, I simply transferred the magical charge from the broken wand into the new wand by solemnly burning the pieces of the broken wand in a thurible while I rotated the new wand in the flames and repeatedly shouted, "Get in there, goddammit." Okay. And this is that wand. And that point right there is, I stuck it on the last burning ember of the wand I cut in Phyllis and Grady's backyard. And this is, and I'd actually use this every day while my other wand, my good wand, oh, excuse me, my first wand was straightening and everything else because it took months for it to straighten. And it looks like sort of like a serpent there because it's, and it looks like flames and things. Now, I was under the impression that a good wand should have poles like a magnet. So this smooth point would be the positive pole, and this split one here that looks sort of like, well, use your imagination what this split part looks like. I got to get it light here so you can see it better. Okay, so that's the negative end. Okay. Okay. It must have worked because my practice wand continues to serve me well to this day. While almond wood is the preferred material for Kabbalistic ceremonial magicians, other cultures and traditions use other woods. European pagan traditions also abound with magic wands and staffs, and the wood most associated with the magic of witchcraft is hazel. In fact, I discovered quite accidentally in 1967, while thumbing through a very cheap occult dictionary with my songwriting partner, Charles D. Harris. We were looking for inspiration for new songs. Our divinatory technique was simple enough. We would get out our guitars and smoke a joint of very weak commercial grade for 1967, and if we're lucky, a little hashish. Mexican marijuana. Then one of us would grab the dictionary, close our eyes, and pick a page at random. We'd write a song about whatever our finger landed on, such as hazel wand. Once we wrote a song called White Goose Feet. It was pretty good. It got published. Okay. Hazel wand. I have traveled very far to sit here at your feet, to ask your favor and make my life complete. Touch me with your hazel wand, fill my heart with joy. Bring me from darkness into light. Okay. The naive lyrics of that refrain still blow my mind after all these years. How could we have known? It was the perfect invocation, the perfect prayer. The magic of hazel wand certainly worked for Charlie and me, at least for 2 or 3 years. Because just a couple months after we penned that song, a producer from Columbia Records heard us sing it and signed us to a contract. Epic Records. He named the company that would publish our 2 singles and an album, Hazel Wand Publishing. It took me 37 years at that time, but I finally got a first-class Magick hazel wand of my own. I accompanied some dear friends to Boleskine House overlooking Loch Ness near Inverness, Scotland. At the turn of the 20th century, it was the home of Aleister Crowley and is arguably one of the most legendary magical residences in the world. The grounds at that time, okay, this is before the wonderful work being done by the Boleskine House Foundation. The grounds are clearly marked private property and are protected from sophomoric Crowley fans like myself. It's protected by a fence, and if the signs are to be believed, dogs. With the help of my friends, I hopped the fence and made it close enough to the lovely house to snap a few pictures. We also brought home some hazel wands that we unceremoniously filched from the property, because the hazel grows wild all over the place. Anyway, here is that wand. This is my hazel wand. Okay, and it has been worked on ever so slightly and conservatively by, it's got that tip there and that tip there, by my dear friend Brianna Siri, who works with wood and wands. And so here's my almond wand and my hazel wand. Touch me with your hazel wand. Fill my heart with joy. Take me from darkness into light. Anyway, that's my little excursion. Whatever and however nice and precious these are to me, I sort of sat on one. These are only symbols for what your wand is and what your will is. And how you use that is entirely up to you. I've had the privilege to once at an exhibit at the October Galleries in London to hold one of Crowley's beautiful wands. I believe it was made of brass, actually, and had a carved face with sort of flaming hair going up like that. It was very cool. But it was just a stick. It was just a pointy thing. Anyway, I encourage you to go off and wag your wand vigorously throughout life. Anyway, that's it for today. I'll see you tomorrow for Saturday morning cartoons. Until then, continue to be good to yourself and be good to each other. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Love is the law. Love under will.